7, what do you got?
These aren't right, though. We need, yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Malden Board of Appeal public hearing. Today is September 21st, 2022. The Malden Board of Appeal will hold a public hearing Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Room 106, the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chambers, Malden, Mass., on the following named petitions. The meeting may be recorded by Urban Media Arts, formerly known as Malden Access Television. First, we're going to do a roll call.
Kramer?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
No mics.
Sherwin?
No mics. Can you guys try to turn your mics on?
Bilden? Here. Chu? Here. Go to variance. Here. Thank you.
I don't even know how to turn this on. No idea. No clue. Can you guys all turn your microphones on? Went to sleep and I don't know how to. Tap it to see if it. No. Wait, what if I
I can
now
hear mine.
now tap yours?
I can hear mine.
Just such a. It's frozen.
Turn it back on again. No, the computer.
It's not. It's frozen.
Control Alt Delete. Just hold. I mean, you can just hold the power button down. And
Here we go.
Okay.
What is it?
Council. C-O-U-N-C-I-L.
No, it's all right. He's down with it.
There you go.
Sign on the screen.
That doesn't help.
Doesn't help.
Oh, it is.
That's it. There you go.
All right,
Okay.
cool.
We're good.
You're a whiz.
I am Spatafora.
You're all set.
Okay, sorry for that technical difficulty. So first, to start, we're going to do a roll call.
All right, do it. Okay, all right. Kramer?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
Sherwin? King?
Here.
Bilden? Here. Chu? Here. Go to variance.
Yes.
Thank you. Approval of minutes?
So the approval of minutes from July 20th, 2022, did everybody have a chance to review those? Any questions or comments on those? Anybody want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes. Second.
Thank you. All right, to approve the minutes from July 20th, 22. Sullivan?
Yes.
Thank you. Sherwin is not here. King?
Yes.
Bilgen?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And who's voting tonight? Who should make their
So
motion?
tonight we're missing a regular voting member, so an alternate member will be standing in. Armin, don't make me pronounce your last name.
Thank you. All right, so Armin will become a voting member tonight.
So before we get started on the petitions, I just want to let the board know that we've been dropped from the complaint for Benevolent Botanicals with our decision. I'm not sure if everybody knew that or not, but that's good news. So from there, we're going to move on to the first petition. Petition 22-008 by Ryan Marie Ketterer and Brian Ketterer for a variance of Title 12, Chapter 12, Code of the City of Malden, as amended through February 1st, 2022, 12.16.010, Table of Intensity Regulations, specifically setback side as per plans RES 046879-2022 at the property known as and numbered 270 Bainbridge Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID 092710006.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Marie Ketterer. My husband and I bought our house on Bainbridge Street back in spring of 2018. We love the city. We love our home. It's our forever home. So we're doing all we can to improve our property and make it more usable for us. So our appeal tonight is to be able to build a deck that exits from our back egress and connects to an existing patio structure in our backyard. We're hoping, because you have to go, when you exit the home, you have to go down the stairs, travel over uneven ground, and then upstairs on the other side to access the existing patio. We're hoping to basically cover all that with a deck. This deck would not encroach in any other way closer to our neighbor than the existing staircase or the existing patio structure. We'd be within 5 feet rather than 10 feet of the property line. That's the basic overview. I have packets with photos and stuff that I submitted to you guys, so if anyone needs additional information, happy to provide that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody have any comments or questions? We have a great packet of color photos here too that are way better than the black and white ones.
Unfortunately, I only brought black and white, but yeah,
We have the color.
awesome.
I have a question. Are you changing or adding any of the steps? Let's start with the ones that are egressing from your second story and going into the backyard.
Yep.
Are you keeping the same number of steps, or are you adding to that?
So what we're gonna do is, when you exit the home and you take that left, the deck will turn and take another left to go to the deck area. So there'll be no stairs to go down at that point. The new stairs to be able to exit via our gate down to the driveway would come down the existing patio structure and land at approximately the same spot that the current stairs land. It's kind of hard to explain.
I had the same question earlier. So where you see the stairs, Catherine, from the existing patio,
Yep.
that's actually, they're going, it looks like they're maybe 5 or 10 feet off the patio. They're actually going down from the patio, not from the house.
So, sorry, you're not gonna egress from your second floor now?
You would be
lowering-
able to egress because you'd walk on the deck and walk over to those new stairs.
Correct. Okay, so there are stairs
Yes.
being, okay,
But they're
Just in
coming
a
from the
different-
patio down, not from the house down.
Correct.
in the patio down.
Yes, the existing brick patio structure.
The-
Everything would be connected, so you'd be able to walk across the deck. The
Sorry,
proposed-
can you come up here and point? It's just,
Yeah,
I
but they're
see
going-
stairs and I see another overlay
They go
of
like
stairs,
this.
so can you point to which is,
So you'd walk up here, turn, and then be able to walk on this area, and then this is the upper stairs landing, and these stairs would start up here and come down, and land at approximately the same area
okay,
that these current stairs.
okay. And then these are existing to remain stairs here?
Yeah, those are concrete stairs, and those are
Sorry.
actually gonna be covered by
We
the
just
deck.
need you to be talking into a microphone, or the people watching at home can't hear it. I'm sorry, there you go.
These stairs are concrete stairs. We're not planning to touch those. We're gonna cover them over with the deck, so they would no longer be accessible.
Okay, so the deck's level is level with the existing patio? Oh, okay, so you'll have railings on the deck on both sides?
Yep.
Okay. Was that helpful for anyone, or just me?
So I was out there earlier today, and so if you look at the back of the house, where you see the AC lines. The deck is actually above those lines.
So you're covering your basement windows
Yes.
or your lower level windows?
Yeah, you'd still, our intent is that you'll be able to go under the deck. We want to use that for storage area, so those windows would still be accessible, yes.
Are you planning on doing any, like, work in the, inside the house too?
They're not, no.
No, you're gonna leave the things the way they are? Okay, because the only thing I was thinking, but I don't want you to have to spend money on necessarily, if you were doing the kitchen over where the refrigerator is now, I mean, you could put a doorway there. This is
We've explored some general ideas with that. The way, especially our bathroom's located kind of in the center of our house.
Yeah, I saw
So all our
that.
plumbing is there.
Yep. But I mean, if where your refrigerator is, which is on the outside
Yes.
back, it's in the corner by the
Correct.
door, and the other thing, you've got a small cabinet to the right of the door.
I think
then
that
the-
corner of the house is still technically 10 feet, within the 10 feet. Our house is within the 10 feet, so to go fully 10 feet, we'd have to go a decent
Well,
bit.
but the house you can't do. But I mean, if you,
Right.
if the door was at the back of the house,
Right.
there where the refrigerator is,
Right,
you could go out on your deck without needing to put a structure to the right of the house. That's the only.
correct, yeah.
As an aside to that, though, I think they'd also have to move those AC lines on the back of the house because they look like they're above the floor.
The deck's going above that. She said the deck is, I know.
Right.
yeah,
But I think
it
you'd be
looked like-
stepping out of the house going up.
Yeah. That's
If you were to
something I
put the
didn't
door there
mention.
on the back of the house.
But if the side,
You know what I mean?
yeah, but the side of the house is gonna be decked also, so unless the deck is sloping at the
The-
side of the house, is it
There will
level?
be a couple stairs up, so you'll walk out and you'll have to go, I think it's maybe 3 stairs to go up to the constant level that will meet with the existing brick structure. So you'll have to go like up, it's like one or 2 or 3 stairs.
On the side of the house?
Yeah, it'll be like on that turn. We'll have 3 stairs up. I have a picture of an example rendering. The sizes are a little bit off just because it was a very early rendering, but I'd be happy to share that if that would help.
I don't think we have.
So you can see here, the stairs, the black and white's a little tough. The stairs would be at the corner
So the stairs here?
to go up to make everything level, and then the stairs to egress coming from the other side.
How much space is here? I mean,
I
this
believe
is,
that's on the plot plan.
Junk, you just move your microphone up, so when she's talking. Sorry. I didn't realize how bad it was until I watched that city council meeting. And if they don't have microphones, you can't hear them at all.
I mean, this is tough because we don't have this, but I mean, this is where the stairs are here. And this is 4.5 feet. I mean,
The numbers on this are gonna be a little bit off, like I said, just because this is an early rendering. The plot plan would have all the correct measurements.
Did you review other options that didn't have the deck as high as you're showing in this proposal?
We did not, no. We did explore options that didn't go within 10 feet, that were, if we exited, went around the corner and went all the way to the 10-foot mark from our property line, the building inspector said they would approve that because it would provide that egress that already exists. And as long as we go all the way to 10 feet, and we build there, that would be okay. But that would cover a lot of our green space that we have on the left side of the property. And our goal was to not cover the green space and rather cover the uneven terrain that's kind of unusable right now.
I have two questions. First, is there living space in the basement?
No, our main living space is on the upper floor. So when we egress, that's on the second floor, that's exiting our kitchen, our master, our living room, and our guest bedroom, office, and bathroom are all on that top floor. The bottom is a guest bedroom and mostly storage. And it's kind of a basement, in the back especially, it's a basement atmosphere.
Okay, so there's no living space behind these two windows at the bottom?
Right now, that's laundry and a half bath.
Okay. And then my second question is, could you talked about exploring other options, and could you just do like a smaller deck where where it doesn't encroach as much on the setback?
If we were to do that, we would have to shift everything over. If we kept this at 10 feet, the deck would be so narrow if we didn't want to cover green space that exists here.
I'm just wondering if you kept the existing stairs, and I know there's a lot of them, so if you're carrying stuff from your kitchen to the backyard, it's probably not ideal, but just the height of the deck is, I think, making me feel like you've got a strategy that you can't reverse. Like, if you kept some of those stairs and you lowered the deck, that maybe it would be a little bit more conforming with the setbacks. Like, you could have a landing down here that's like pavers, and then you can step up to the deck. Obviously, we don't want to get rid of the green space. That's really nice for you to have, but I just wonder that the height of this is going to feel a little bit, impeding on your neighbor a little bit. So I'm curious to see if anyone comes up and talks about that. Yeah, if you want to address whether you did consider keeping more of those existing stairs and having a landing and then having a deck.
So this terrain, and you can kind of see it in the photos, there's like a pathway here, and then there's a big hill that's a lot of like concrete and kind of debris. I don't know what was put there. It's from before we moved in, and it's all very uneven. So we'd have to remove all that. There's a lot of, it's just very uneven, and this existing patio structure is pretty high, and our goal is just to, because we're already up there, so we can see into our neighbor's yard. This existing structure isn't going to provide any additional view or anything like that, standing on the stairs here, standing on the patio here, wouldn't, it's not any additional encroachment. We also did, I want to mention, we did talk to our neighbor. They are in support of this. There is a language barrier with them, so it felt like me putting words in their mouth to try and write a letter for them of support to bring here. So they did voice their support for us, but it's not on the record, unfortunately. But.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Comments? Anything? Not even from you, John?
Do you know what the height is of because I don't think we have it on the thing. The height of that patio?
From
The existing patio in your backyard.
What its elevation is and how it matches up with the house.
I'm not sure, so what the elevation is of the patio from the ground that it touches or from the even lower
Or
ground.
just its elevation to the top of at the surface.
Yeah,
I mean, how it matches up with the house. I mean, in the pictures, it's difficult to tell.
So I was there earlier today, John, and so from that side deck to the patio is not that much different. That area between that side deck and the patio is significantly taller than I am. It's like a canyon.
There, yeah, but I mean, to make that connection house to this patio, I mean, they're saying that it's going to be, it's higher than, I guess, than these air conditioning lines.
It'll be just above.
Just above.
Just above,
Right,
yeah.
but I'm wondering how that lies with that, the current, you know.
I believe the plan there, if they have to go up a little bit or down, or they won't be able to go down, but if they have to go up a little, they will. And then if we do need a stair to go down or up to the existing patio structure, that's also an option. The goal is to have it flush, though.
I mean, we don't even, this doesn't, it sounds like, I mean, we don't have a plan that we're gonna be able to approve. I mean, they're not, I mean, if they're gonna be moving the elevations of everything right now, I mean, she's saying they might have to add another stair. And I have a question for the building inspector.
Sure.
I was just wondering on, and you may have seen these, and on the outside stairway they're gonna have, is there a dimension that it has to be, a width? I mean, can it be 2 feet wide?
I'm sorry, ask that again?
The outside stairway, they said from the side deck to the main deck in the back, there's gonna be a set of stairs. Does that have to be a minimum width?
Of the staircase itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be 32 inches between the rails to be a staircase on a single-family home.
Because I mean, from this.
But the existing
from
stair,
this, we can't tell, I mean, this I can't tell, I mean, this looks like it's about,
Well, that's not in
I
our
know.
file.
I
But
know.
yeah, they're saying a 4 foot, but they're
Right
not
now.
showing that turn.
yeah, they're not showing any stair, on the plan, they're not showing any stairways, or, it looks like it's just level from the side to the main deck, but she's saying there's gonna be a turn with a stairway.
yeah, I actually don't have that picture in my package, so I haven't seen
Yeah,
that.
We could ask them to do an existing and a proposed that cleans up the stair, and so it's not confusing. We don't need to see a stair that's getting covered up, because right now we're reading it as a stair, so they could revise the plan to be more clear.
Yeah, so the drawing I'm looking at shows a staircase width of 4 feet. I don't know if that's between the rails or between the guards. Either way, it doesn't matter, that's more than enough than what they need for the
because
staircase.
on this plan, it shows a 4 foot. It just, I mean, there's nothing on here other than they do have some dimensions. They give us a section that's 4.5 feet, but I can't, you know, but the space for the stairway looks much smaller than that on this plan. She can have this back, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the
I have many copies.
So the package,
We can keep that.
so the package we reviewed for the purpose of getting them to the Board of Appeals obviously shows the distance from the property line to the structure itself, which is what you guys are addressing this evening. If they were to get the variance, then obviously we would then confirm with them the width of the staircase and, you know, dimensional controls that have building codes that apply to them. So I think that's actually what you guys are looking at tonight is the distance from the property line to the structure itself, not necessarily the width of the staircase. But if it is constructed at the 4 feet, obviously 4 feet is way more than they would need for a code compliant staircase.
And it isn't, I'm sorry that it's not clear, and I probably shouldn't even have put that old image in there. But the plan was 4 feet for all walkways that are the narrow, quote unquote. That is like the number that's been used, so.
All set, open to public.
If there's no any other questions or comments from the board, we'll open it up to anybody from the public that has anything to say. I don't think there's anybody here for that. Oh,
My name is Barbara Murphy. I'm the Ward 5 City Councilor. I live at 28 Forest Street in Malden, Massachusetts. I am here to speak in favor of this petition. I, like you, Mr. Kramer, have been to the property. The topography of the backyard is something that is very, I'm not going to say unique in Malden, but it definitely has some very unique qualities that really limit the amount of use that the backyard can have. Just as a, as an elder person, I'll call myself an elder person tonight, I had to actually have Mr. Ketterer hold my arm to traverse the backyard. I mean, it really is, it's kind of treacherous for anyone young or old or not fleet of foot. So I can truly see the reason why they want to connect these two patios in order to make the yard more useful. And also the fact that, they are really concerned with retaining the green space. They obviously could put another presentation together and not have to come through the Board of Appeals or go through this process. But the goal was to save that green space on the left side of the backyard. It is, in addition to that, I think one of the other things, not that it's in your purview this evening, but it's an interesting point, is that the staircase on the right side of the house, they're actually reconfiguring that to make it more of a cantilever to actually increase the parking so that they can get a car off the street. So I think, they've done a lot of due diligence in trying to be a good neighbor and, also create a living environment for themselves, their elders, and their family, and any future young children that they have. I would ask that you look on this petition favorably. This is the young type of person that we want to have in our neighborhood, and we want them to be here, stay, be happy, and raise their families. So I would hope that you would look at this petition favorably. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody in opposition of this? Nope.
Close it to public.
All right, we're going to close this to the public at this point. Any other further discussion, or would anybody like to make a motion on this?
I'm still not clear exactly how this is going. At the end of the driveway, you've got those concrete steps that go up to a gate.
Yes,
That's how you are gonna exit, right?
yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
That's staying the same.
That's staying the same. And you're gonna access that, I mean, it, just, is this those set of stairs that I'm
Yes.
seeing?
yes.
So, how are you getting there?
There are two gates there. One's
I know that, but how are you getting from this deck, which is up here, to this stairway, which is, I mean, this deck is gonna be at this level, approximately, the side, and they have to get down to here
So,
to, and I just don't see it on this, where, how they
so,
do it. Maybe I'm-
John, one of the things you might not be seeing, so I drew an arrow. So these stairs are actually going to be coming from this way. So they're going to
But
have
that doesn't go to that,
to come out and then go around,
but that's the stairway over on the right. That's the stairway you see with those
going to the
gates.
driveway.
You get,
There's a landing here, so it's not,
yeah, but that's low too.
so these stairs that are coming off of, the new stairs are going to be landing on the same landing
See,
that's
that's what's
there now.
confusing, is that the stairway looks, it's like,
Yeah, so it's
I
like,
agree, it's kind of it looks like it's overlapping on that.
there's some
plan.
type of landing up here that's actually the height of the deck, right?
right, and that,
This-
or
this should be
lower.
3
This
feet.
is,
No,
this
this-
is, but then there's gonna be stairs up to the deck. That's what she's saying.
That there
Just a
might be to get this
Just a
one.
couple. So this is gonna be
So there-
lower
There's
than
two
this.
So then your head should clear under here if there's like a couple steps up and you've got this landing that turns onto here and then these go underneath it.
This might be a better
But does it-
picture, John. So this is the same, stairs are using the same landing that they're using now.
So that's the concept. The
So they're
dimensions
going-
might not be right, but that's the
So
concept.
they're going back to the, so these stairs you're leaving, but you're not using them.
No, you'll walk in, the gate on those stairs, and you'll walk in approximately right here. So you'll be able to turn left and access the stairs up to the deck right there.
They're just being reversed.
The landing that is from these stairs, when you go inside the gate, there's a concrete landing,
Yep.
between this wall, retaining wall.
Yep.
It's
So that-
concrete here.
Yep.
So the stairs that exit the house now land right here. The new stairs, or the goal is to land at that exact same spot.
And not, so that'd be in front of the, no, the deck's gonna go all the way. That's very confusing.
This is a big hill here, so
Yeah.
we're building
Oh, yeah.
essentially stairs over the hill.
Okay.
One thing I want to add too is they're not, so the current stairs are about 5.2 feet off the property line, and they're not increasing or decreasing that amount. So the existing stairs are currently 5.2 feet off the line, and the new ones will also be 5.2 feet off the line. Any other questions or comments? Or motions?
I guess I'll just make a quick comment. I think it's going to appear pretty high, but it's mostly concealed behind the house, which is nice. And I definitely agree that the property line are causing some pinch points. It's not a square rectangle property, and the backyard probably is a lot of ledge like most in that area, so I definitely feel like it warrants some type of hardship for the actual site and topography.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So what we're ruling on here is whether or not to grant a variance on the 5.2 foot, extending basically the 5.2 foot setback that they're already at anyway.
Right, so it's no more non-conforming than it was.
Right.
Don't look at me.
I can't make a motion.
I'd be happy to make a motion if people are done discussing. I'd make a motion that we approve this variance based on the hardships explained with the topography of the site and the unusual nature of the backyard and main living level of the house being so high up.
Thank you. All right, then we'll second it.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'm not second.
Second, okay. A motion by Bilgan, second by Ketterer to approve this variance due to hardship of the land. Okay. Sullivan,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Bilgan,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Ketterer.
Yes.
Thank you, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
she'll be hearing from
For
us.
me.
Right, okay.
Yep.
I told her earlier that she could just leave when we're done. I didn't think she would.
Oh, all right. I will contact her.
Okay. Okay, so the second petition we'll hear is 22-009, Patrick McDonald Esquire, on behalf of PSI Atlantic Malden for a variance of Title 4.16.090, Code of the City of Malden as amended through February 1st, 2022, regulation of signs by district, specifically size and number of signs in the industrial I zoning district as per plans SGER 043578-2022 at the property known as in number 950 to 970 Eastern Ave, Malden, Mass, and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID 126485501.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Attorney Patrick McDonald with offices at 479 Eastern Avenue in Malden, representing the petitioner, PSI Atlantic Malden, Mass. LLC. With me tonight is one of the principals of that entity, Mr. Jesse Morgan. I'm sure the board is familiar with this property. We've been before you on 2 occasions now, originally earlier in the year seeking a variance of some dimensional control variances, which were granted by the board that allowed the construction of a proposed self-storage facility at that location. That's the 950-970 Eastern Ave is the former Ace-Lawn Plastics factory, and the petitioner's objective is to demolish the existing building. It's received Historical Commission permission to demolish, and we were most recently before the board in August of this year seeking an extension of the 1-year time frame within which a permit could be pulled for that purpose, informing the board then that the petitioner was having significant difficulties locking in a general contractor for the project, given the general state of the economy, the spiraling inflation, and supply chain issues. As it turns out, although the petitioner sought and was granted the full 6 months permissible by the statute, they only needed about 3 weeks actually beyond the 1-year date. They've locked in their contractor, they've pulled their demolition permit, and if any board members have been to the site, you can see now that initial demolition steps are being taken. They're removing the siding due to asbestos or belief that asbestos is in the siding. So they're moving forward with the project. And this matter before the board now is related exclusively to proposed signage for the new business. The proposed signage package, which was submitted to the board, suggests 8 distinct signs on the property. And I know the board hearing the number 8 and given the restrictions under the ordinance may say, whoa, what's going on here with 8 signs? But initially I'd like to ask the board to consider dividing the signage into 2 categories. One, conventional business-related signage, business identification signage, and business advertisement signage. And those would be the proposed larger wall-mounted signs initially on the front of the building facing Eastern Avenue and in a generally southward direction. And on one side of the building, again facing Eastern Avenue, but in a generally eastward direction. The petitioner is looking to put a freestanding pylon sign that will identify the business closer to the property edge and the street. I would suggest to the board that one I believe is allowed as a matter of right, but Commissioner Miller would correct me if I'm wrong in that. And the fourth kind of conventional business identification and advertisement sign is what we're proposing to be a smaller blade sign on the rear of the building. The board may remember this property abuts the abandoned rail line, which is now the Greenway bike path. Ward Councilor Winslow is very supportive of the project. and had specifically requested some signage on the rear of the building. We made the representation to the ward councilor, and we made the representation to the board that we would make a diligent effort to provide something in the nature of rear building signage for him at his request. I've communicated with Ward Councilor Winslow. He's expressed support for the signage package as submitted to the board. I don't see him here tonight. I don't think he'll be personally attending, but he may very well have sent something to the board without my knowledge. But I can represent to the board that he's expressed to me full support for the package. The other 4 signs of the total 8 that the petitioner is looking for are what I'm categorizing as informational and directional signage on the building for the purpose of assisting customers and visitors to the building in identifying where the office is. One of those signs would be a sign that says office above the door into the business's office, and identifying specific loading bays. The proposed structure and the approved structure has 3 loading bays, and petitioner is proposing a sign above each loading bay 1, loading bay 2, loading bay 3. As I said, these are conceptually somewhat different than the signage that's designed to promote the business and help the public see the business for identification purposes, and that they apply exclusively to people who are already utilizing the business and need to know where the office is and need to know when the clerk behind the counter says, all right, you're in unit XYZ on the 5th floor and you need to use loading bay 1 to get to that. So while we recognize that it's still signage, we're not suggesting it isn't, but I would ask the board to treat it somewhat differently for purposes of the petition before it tonight. And of the 4 signs that are conventional business identification and business advertisement signs, one of which is permitted by right anyway, that being the freestanding pylon sign. So we're really talking about the 2 larger wall-mounted signs that will identify the business itself, extra space storage, one facing the front of the building, or one mounted on the front of the building, one mounted on the side of the building, and that 3rd blade sign that we're proposing to mount on the rear of the building. I believe it's in toward the northwest corner of the rear of the building. And that one, again, is proposed at the request of Councilor Winslow and as a result of our desire to accommodate the councilor's request in that regard. These signs in number and in size do run afoul of the strict requirements of the sign ordinance in terms of size. They're bigger than what is technically permitted by the zoning ordinance. I would say initially to the board that while these are bigger, I have noted and done a little research, the self-storage facility located at 490 Eastern Avenue, which had to come before this board initially for signage, and at that time was also in extra space storage. It's changed now to public storage, a different entity owning and running it. But at the beginning, it was an extra space storage. And these signs are identical to the signs in size and color and nature as to the ones that were previously approved at the 490 site. I recognize that that doesn't impose any precedent obligation on the board, but I provide it for purposes of context that this kind of signage, with the exception of that rear blade sign, is something the board has seen before and something the board has seen fit to vary under those circumstances. And I suggest that these circumstances are similar. We have a large structure. A large structure kind of needs a bigger sign. To be candid, I think sometimes, given larger buildings and larger businesses, the size limitations of the signage that are permitted by the sign ordinance aren't appropriate for a bigger structure that needs to have a bigger sign in order to match the size of the building. So that's what the petitioner is looking for here. I suggest that this board has determined that this property has met the statutory criteria for variance in the past, having agreed to grant the dimensional control variances for the building itself. All of those are the same, but I'll briefly remind the board that we have a somewhat unique physical lot here in that it's a bit of a trapezoidal figure in the sense that the side lot lines are skewed, it's not right angles on the corners. There's also a significant change in grade on the property. The board may recall that for about 6 feet, the first 6 feet of the rear property line inward is at a particular level, and then you've got about a 2.5 to 3 feet drop in grade that carries it forward. It also abuts, it's unique in the sense that it abuts that abandoned rail line. This grade change, this skewed property line, and the location of the building along that abandoned rail line, I think all suggest a uniqueness, excuse me, to the lot, excuse me again, that is not common throughout the zoning district in general. The hardship argument, this would need to be somewhat different because it's signage as opposed to the building itself, but having approved the building itself and given the size and keeping in mind again that this, at the request of a neighbor, the building was flipped. It's kind of an oddly shaped building. It's in the nature of a pork chop shape with an end and then a big pork chop at the end. But this creates, multiple facets, multiple surfaces requiring signage. We're only seeking, that which could be expected, a front sign and a side sign, basically, in terms of business identification. And again, the smaller blade sign to the rear at the request of the ward councilor. If this petitioner can't have signage that is consistent with similar businesses currently operating in the city and similar signage that has been approved by the board, that's a hardship for it, that's a disadvantage, it's a business and economic disadvantage for it. And finally, we don't believe and would respectfully suggest that allowing this kind of signage is not going to derogate substantially, if at all, from the intent and purpose of the zoning. The sign ordinance is designed to try to strike a balance between the needs of businesses to promote their businesses and have their businesses visible and identifiable by the public, while not allowing or trying to control to some extent the sign color, size, color, and illumination. And as I said, these signs are appropriate for a building of this size. And I respectfully would suggest I don't think that they run afoul of the intent of the zoning ordinance, the signage ordinance. Its purpose is to allow businesses to have signage that identifies their building. And frankly, bigger buildings, as a general rule, are going to need bigger signs than the ones you see on the smaller businesses that may occupy smaller spaces within a building. With respect to it also promoting the public good or not running afoul of the public good, again, I think the same arguments apply in that these larger signs assist the public, those four that identify the business for the public and promote the business to the public, again, assist the public and provide a benefit to the public in that respect. And I ask the board again to keep in context the other four of the total of 8 signs that will be on the site, as those are purely informational and directional for customers and visitors to the site. And that clearly is in the nature of, or in the interest of the public good. Have Mr. Morgan here. I'm more than happy to address any particular issues, questions, or concerns that either I can't answer or I might not, or he might be better able to answer. And welcome any comments from the board, questions from the board, the building commissioner, anybody else who seeks to
Thank you.
have answers.
Nelson, is there anything you wanted to clarify? Come on up.
I know you all get very excited when you see signs on the agenda for variances.
So excited.
The rules are very involved. So Attorney McDonald was very thorough in his explanation. If I could just narrow it down for you a little bit, so you know exactly which signs you're addressing. As Attorney McDonald mentioned, there are 2 signs, which are wall signs, which are too large. One of them is facing Eastern Ave. It's identified as sign 1 in your package. The other one faces the parking lot, and it's identified as sign 2. So the way the sign ordinance works, the allowable size of signs is dictated by zoning district. This is in the industrial district, and there's 2 regulations. One is a maximum amount of signage per linear footage of frontage. That doesn't come into play here. So they're well below that number, so we don't need to even deal with that. The second rule or category would be the overall size of an individual sign. So an industrial one, the largest sign you can have is 40 square feet. Okay, so sign 1 and sign 2, the maximum size for those signs can be 40 square feet. Sign 1, as identified and as Attorney McDonald explained, is larger. It's 170 square feet, and sign 2 is 57 square feet. So they're seeking a variance of those two signs strictly for square footage dimensions. The third sign, which was mentioned, is the blade sign. The projecting sign is what we call in the ordinance, which faces the recreational trail. As Attorney McDonald referenced, the city did change the ordinances recently regarding the recreational trail to promote signage. I'm very familiar with it. I actually wrote it. So the ordinance actually contemplates a wall sign, not a projecting sign. But that's okay because our projecting sign rules don't contemplate where it is on the building. I don't think anybody ever actually thought they'd put it in the back of the building, so they never addressed it in the ordinance. But the point is that there's no issue with the location of it. It's okay that it faces the recreational trail, but there is a limitation to the size. It's allowed to be 20 square feet, and it's currently 39.8 square feet as designed. So, to try to narrow it down for you, the three things that you're addressing are sign 1, which is 170, can only be 40. Sign 2 is 57, can only be 40. Sign 8, which is the projecting sign, is 39.8, it can only be 20. The rest of the signs are fine. There's no issue with dimensions or locations or sizes or anything like that. So hopefully that narrows it down for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Attorney McDonald?
I always have a question. They're all lit, I think, and not the office, I don't think.
No, not the informational signs
Okay.
to the parking lot, but yes, all, the remaining 4 signs, the pylon, the 2, I'll call main signs, and the rear blade sign, they're all electrified and illuminated, yes.
And I don't know, how bright it's, like, especially the one that's facing the residential area, on the rail trail, is that, do you know how bright that is? And is it gonna be on all night, or is it gonna be?
I would not expect it to be on all night. I don't have a photometric.
Give name and address.
Oh, Jesse Morgan, Senior Vice President, Premier Storage Investors. Address is at 530 Oak Court Drive, Suite 155, Memphis, Tennessee. To answer your question, I would not expect it to be lit all night. If that's a serious concern, we can address not lighting that sign. We have done at the councilor's, request and one of our SP conditions with the planning board. We do security lights and security cameras to make the rail trail safer. However, if that is going to be a nuisance, that's certainly something we'd be willing to discuss. I don't have a photometric plan that's showing the foot candles from the blade sign, so I can't answer whether or not there is spillage or how much there would be.
Okay.
That answered one of my questions as to whether or not there was going to be more lighting facing the trail, but you'll have lighting and security cameras?
Correct. Security lighting and security cameras.
Okay. I think having that blade sign on the back, regardless of the size, also would be helpful for people on the trail to know where they are. In proximity to just other things on Eastern Ave that you wouldn't, things look different on Eastern Ave versus the bike path. But we're here for the sizes of the signs. Any other questions for? No? We're going to open this up to public. If there's anybody here that wants to speak in favor of this, or can I clarify the lighting issue? Yes.
I'm also on the sign design review committee, And we require, for any sign that gets approved, we require that the sign is, can get turned on 1 hour before the location opens up and shuts off 1 hour after they close. So whatever their office hours are, it would turn on an hour previous and shut off an hour after, so it wouldn't be on all night.
And what, do you have standard operating hours for your facilities? Do you know what they're gonna be here?
The access hours of the facility, when a customer can use it, are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The office hours, those can move based on market. We'll see how the customers like to use the facility, but typically office hours are, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. would be the outer bounds, but they'll move those, 30 minutes or an hour, but we're happy to work with the sign design review committee and make sure that we abide by all their rules and regulations.
I'm not sure that, 11 PM seems late if people can see it from their houses, but, again, I don't think that's why we're here. Any other, comments or questions? And nobody wanted to speak, in favor or was opposed to it, so we're gonna close the public now and discuss.
Well, I think in other times that the sign ordinances come up, I think it's fairly strict on the way it's written and doesn't take into account the size of the buildings or the distance from the streets. So that sometimes there's gotta be more flexibility depending on, the conditions that these people are trying to, have for their business. And I think this is a good example of it, where you have a massive building. It's gonna be a good-sized building, and to limit them to very small space. The back one, could be a little smaller, maybe, but again, it's out of sight from the street. It's gonna allow people that are on that trail to see what's there on the other side, because they're not gonna be able to see that building, what that building is from there. And it's gonna allow them to know what that is. So I think it's appropriate for that size building.
Yeah, I would just comment that it doesn't seem too large for the building or the setting or the arrangement of the building, and comparing it to other similar buildings, which, had similar hardships for the site and the type of building. It seems kind of in line with what we've approved before.
I would agree, they seem proportionate for the size of the building. Anyone else have anything they wanna discuss on this? Would anybody like to make a motion?
Well, this I'll make it. I'm more comfortable with this one. I move that we allow the variance for the signs on the building.
As outlined in the plan?
As outlined in the plan.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, a motion by John King, second by Sullivan, to allow the variance as outlined in the plans. I'm gonna call it. Sullivan?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Bilgan?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Code of variance.
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor? Variance is granted.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
petition 22-007 by Patrick Mc... Do you want me to wait a minute? No, you're good. I know you probably have a couple things. I can wait a second. I didn't realize you had two.
Anyone signs in when they come up, just remind them.
That was, she said, tonight, whatever.
Got some big ones too.
Okay, so petition 22-007 by Patrick P McDonald Esquire on behalf of SA&M Enterprises LLC for a variance of Title 12, Chapter 12, Code of the City of Malden as amended through February 1st, 2022, 12.16.010, Table of Intensity Regulations, specifically area setback rear as per plans CMID-046598-2022 at the property known as and numbered 385 Medford Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID 040-180-001. Long time no see.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Patrick McDonald with offices at 479 Eastern Avenue on behalf of this petitioner, which is SA&M Enterprises LLC. And with me tonight is the principal of that limited liability company, Mr. Edgar Fayyad, who would be available to answer questions or provide insight or input at the request of the board if I am unable to do so satisfactorily. This petition involves a request for variance for a proposed development of the property at 385 Medford Street here in Malden. That is the location of the former Imperial Badge Company, and a portion of the building was also occupied by a liquor store for many years, most recently one called Edge Liquors. As the board I'm sure knows, that building has been vacant and not utilized by anyone for a very long time. I would say at least a decade, I think, at this point or more, but perhaps I'm wrong about that. But in any event, a long time. It's been sitting there, fire damaged as well, for a very long time. And I know the city, Commissioner Miller, would like to see something happen with that. So Mr. Fayyad, who owns it, and the abutting property next door on Highland Ave, which is a up and running filling station and auto repair business on that opposite corner, is hopeful of doing that. I should never take these off before I finish my presentation. This lot is 9,495 square feet. The current existing building occupies almost the entirety of the lot. I don't have the measurements. We did provide an existing condition plans with the package, and you can see that there's very little unused space on the lot that isn't covered by the existing building. The existing building probably violates every dimensional control in the ordinance with the possible exception of height, given how much of the lot it occupies and how close it is to all the various property lines. There's no parking currently available on the lot of any kind. The proposal before the board is to demolish the existing building in its entirety and to construct a new building that will be the core of a new type of business there, that being a business that will provide inspection, motor vehicle inspection services, as well as oil change services. That proposed building will be significantly smaller than the one that currently occupies the parcel. It will be 2,464 square feet, and it is proposed to be sited at the northern half of the lot and more toward the western end of the lot than the eastern end. You can see on the plan that the proposal is to have a drive-through inspection bay. Customers in need of a annual motor vehicle inspection would pull in to the building from the eastern end, and there is room there for 2 vehicles at a time to be inspected in that lane that would be used for that purpose. And then those cars would egress from the lot onto West Street. That occupies about the northern half of the proposed structure. The southern half of the proposed structure would consist of a two-bay oil change area. Mr. Fayyad, as a full-service gas and automotive repair station, currently performs vehicle inspection. He currently performs oil changes at his existing location next door, as well as heavier, so to speak, automotive repair, and it is also a filling station. These will be separate but affiliated businesses, as it's the intent of Mr. Fayyad to direct the inspection work over to this prospective new building, and to direct again the pure oil change work to this building as well. That would free up some space and some bays in the existing automotive repair building located next door on the corner of Highland and Medford. The variance that we are asking for in order to accomplish this as depicted on the plan is in two areas, two-dimensional control areas. I believe, and again, Commissioner Miller will correct me if I am wrong, I believe that in a neighborhood business zoning district in a retail service use like this, we're supposed to be a 10,000 square foot lot, and we're a 9,495 square foot lot, so we're a little short. We're about 5% short, 505 square feet, which the math works out to a 5% deficiency on that. Also, you can see on the plan that we're siting the building fairly close, admittedly, to the rear property line that abuts the property on the plan identified as now or formerly of Robert and Deborah Skinner. The siting proposal is for 6-foot setback from that line, and I believe it's 20 feet. Now, it's more significant variance to be sure. But I suggest to the board that the purpose of putting the building where it is that siting really maximizes and the best use of the property for this purpose. The proposal is otherwise completely zoning compliant. We've got all the parking, we've got excess parking, more parking that's called for. We have travel lanes. Travel on the site will be heavily regulated and designed to minimize difficulties for, we've got an intersection here with Highland and Medford, and we're very cognizant of that. So the proposal is for a curb cut on Medford Street, on the westbound side of Medford Street, which would be one way. So all access to the lot will be by virtue of a single curb cut, one-way curb cut on Medford Street. From there, the flow of traffic would move either straight and then through the building for inspection purposes, or somewhat to the left and into the proposed oil change bays. This provides ample room. The siting of the building provides ample room for the parking that's called for, and as I said, even additional parking beyond that called for under the ordinance, and regulates the flow of traffic in a safe, efficient, and effective way. One way, basically, over the entirety of the lot. Again, I realize that traffic flow isn't technically an issue that falls under the purview of the board, but I'd like to provide context to the board to see why the building is being proposed to be sited where it is. And it's to maximize parking and to maximize beneficial traffic flow on the lot. All egress from the lot will occur from two distinct curb cuts, and they're again one way, onto, excuse me, West Street. There'll be a curb cut at the end of the lane that will be used for the inspection bay that exits out onto West Street, and there'll be a second curb cut for any customers who are not using the inspection bay, not having their vehicles inspected, but rather instead getting oil change work done. They too will exit only onto West Street. We think that this is a good traffic flow pattern for this particular site. Again, being cognizant of how the traffic can back up at any intersection, but certainly the Highland and Medford being a very busy intersection at certain times of the day. And we want to avoid traffic coming out onto Medford Street that close to the intersection and trying to make, for instance, a left turn out of the lot, that's going to be difficult, you know, at 5 o'clock at night or at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's our proposal on that, and that represents the reasoning behind the siting of the building and the depicted traffic flow and parking on the site. I'd respectfully suggest that we meet the statutory criteria. First of all, this is again, a uniquely shaped lot. It is more trapezoidal than rectangular or square. I also note, and ask the board to note, you've got this odd little cutout in the northeast corner of the building. These are features related to the shape of the lot that I'd suggest you know, are not common to other parcels and properties within this zoning district, which, by the way, is neighborhood business. The hardship here is very straightforward. In order for this to work best, I'd suggest this constitutes the best placement of the building. And there's little to nothing that can be done about the de minimis shortage of area on the lot, that 500 square feet. I suspect that may, you know, this cutout here may have something to do with that. But the siting of the building within the compliant setback would create problems. If this building had to move 14 feet further into the main portion of the lot, that's going to shift your means of egress, your curb cuts for both the oil changes and the exit from the inspection bay, a corresponding number of feet. And again, the closer that curb cuts get to intersections, the more problematic they become. So this allows us to push those curb cuts and those egress means a little bit further back to ease, to some extent, potential traffic issues on exiting the site. I'd suggest that with respect to, again, whether or not this is substantially, in substantial derogation of the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance or substantially in contravention to the public good, that rather the opposite applies, that this variance and the allowance of the siting of this structure in this particular location actually advance public good. They make it a safer lot for those on it in terms of traffic flow on site. They make it a safer lot from which to enter and exit when entering and exiting the business to obtain inspections or oil changes. The petitioner was proactive, reached out to Ward Councilor Condon. He's here tonight. We understand him to be in full support of the proposal and the development proposal. He also interacted with neighbors in the surrounding area, sought them out proactively. I know in the past the board has been willing to accept things in the nature of signed petitions by interested parties and abutters. I do have one that I'll ask at the end of my presentation for leave to submit. I will point out to the board that you're going to see 3 crossouts here and may wonder what they mean. So the explanation for that is, these were made by me this evening when I was made aware that 3 individuals who had earlier on in the process had expressed support for it and had signed the form, had in the interim period changed their position. My understanding is they are no longer in support of the project. So I have crossed their names off. I don't want to mislead the board in any way or suggest to the board that certain people are in support of it when they're not. And when you see that, that'll be the basis for that. But as I said, we believe this proposal, we seek comparatively minimum relief in terms of area and one-dimensional control setback. The area variance requested is truly de minimis, 5% in 500 square feet on a 10,000 square foot lot. The variance that we seek for the setback is admittedly larger, but I believe that the explanation for that is valid, that it's pushing it into the setback area by this number of feet really does open up the main part of the lot to facilitate easy and safe on-site travel and ingress and egress to the lot. And I am available to address any questions, and Mr. Fayyad is here as well to address questions or provide input should the board want it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Attorney McDonald right now?
How, the in a sense, the business model, are these gonna be by appointments, everybody coming, or is it gonna be catch?
I'm going to assume it's just, you know, as people need inspections, I don't think there'll be appointments for inspections or appointments for oil changes. I can bring Mr. Fayyad up, and he can certainly answer definitively on that, but I think it's going to be once people know that there's an inspection station there and an oil change station there, they'll come and go as they choose. Mr. Fayyad mentioned to me that on average, he does about 30 inspections a month, or 300 inspections a month. So that averages to about 10 a day. Obviously, that number goes up as you get closer to the end of the month or just past the beginning of the month. Many people wait till the last minute, and many people wait beyond the last minute to get their inspections. But so yeah, of the 300, they're going to kind of bunch up toward the very end and the very beginning of months. But you're not expecting it. You don't do it by appointment or.
No.
I'll give you a name and address.
Edgar Fayyad, 16 Rolling Lane, Dover, Massachusetts. Thank you for having us tonight. Basically, as Mr. Attorney said, it's everybody do it as they go. It gets a little busier at the end of the month and in the beginning of the month. But basically, the number of inspection is about 300 inspections a month. It gets a little busier also when you come to the summertime. It gets slower February and winter month. And basically, people are creature of habit. The business is already existing at the gas station, so we're trying to get some relief to the gas station by utilizing the lot next door. And that's it.
I have a question about parking.
Go ahead.
Did you mention you have more parking spaces than required by the city?
Yes, and again, I'll defer, and I always defer to Commissioner Miller on this, but I believe we need 4 spaces per 1,000 feet of square footage of lot size, and we have just under 10,000 square feet, but over 9, so that would equate to 10 spaces. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the parking lot. But you are allowed under the ordinance to include interior spaces, and you see that there are 2 bays for oil changes and 2 bays for.
1 bay for inspection. You're allowed to do only 1 vehicle, but the other vehicle will be like waiting in line to get inspected.
All right. But in any event, there's room inside the building for 4 more compliant spaces. Mr. Fayyad doesn't anticipate actually needing necessarily to use interior parking spaces because it's really more about, this isn't like a true automotive mechanic where people are dropping cars off and the mechanics they need time to get to them and get the work done. So oftentimes they're parked on site until they can be reached by the mechanics and the work done. That's not likely to be the case when you're dealing with a business that does inspections. Of course, inspections come, drive through and leave, and oil changes pretty much do the same thing. So we expect that the exterior parking is probably going to be sufficient to accommodate any people waiting to get inspections or waiting to get oil changes while these bays are occupied, but that they won't be needed for overnight parking or overflow parking or anything like that. But they're there because we need to depict at least 10 spaces on the plan to be compliant for parking for the use in this zoning district.
So you do believe you need all 10 to be compliant? It doesn't matter that you have interior space?
I'm sorry?
You believe that you need all 10 outside the building to be compliant?
Well, we need 10 parking spaces, period, to be compliant with the ordinance.
I just wanted to see if there was an opportunity to review the number of parking spaces and pull the building off the property line. So if there is a reason why you need 10, and that's part of your plan, I just wanted to hear that, I guess.
Well, moving the building, again, we have extra parking spaces because anytime you have a structure, you are allowed to utilize space within the structure to be applied toward the overall parking requirement, as long as the spaces are compliant in terms of size, length and width, all right? As I said, we don't intend to use them, but as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the placement of the building is less about parking than it is about ingress and egress and traffic flow on site. It's certainly possible that, for instance, during the busy periods that Mr. Fayyad mentioned, for inspections, toward the end of the month and at the beginning of the next month, there could be need for cars to be parked on site waiting to access the inspection bays. That happens. I've seen that happen in a number of gas stations. There's oftentimes a line waiting to get to that inspection bay, and similarly with oil changes, there may be a need, probably less likely than with inspections, but you can never be certain that maybe he gets a rush on oil change business and people need to park their cars. And pushing the building as far back as we can is more about creating open, safe space for travel, both from Medford Street, whether you're going toward the bays, the oil change bays, or whether you're going toward the inspection bays. This maximizes the room for purposes of that, acknowledging that these areas have to be parking spaces. Even if they're not occupied, it's not typically a place where people drive their car when on a site. They're driving in areas outside of the parking spaces. And the closer that building comes to Medford Street, the closer those curb cuts for egress need to be to Medford Street on West Street. And again, as a general rule, the closer your cars are coming out of a curb cut to an intersection, the greater your traffic problems. I know, having done many matters before the board and the planning board, you always want to push these curb cuts back away from the intersections because they can be problematic when they're too close to the intersection. So I understand what you're asking and what you're saying. Can we move the building back? But by doing so, it's not so much about sacrificing parking spaces as it is sacrificing linear distance from Medford Street and attendant traffic issues that would be created by egress from the lot too close to the corner, too close to the intersection.
Thank you.
If I may, on that, relative to that, but related to that point, so the only way into the property will be on Medford Street?
That's correct.
And if I may,
yep.
There's two exits from the property, both on West Street.
Correct.
And West Street at that area is a one-way.
Yes.
Correct. So all the traffic coming off the property will be going in the same direction up West Street.
Yes.
There's no option to go to Medford Street.
Oh, you're right. Forgive me, Chief. It dawned on me that West Street is a one-way. I apologize for that.
Okay. So my next question was that you indicated, on average 10 inspections, they increase towards the end of the month and the beginning of the following month. What's your anticipation or your projection on oil changes per day? Would you?
Pretty much maybe 4 or 5 a day.
4 or 5 a day?
Yeah, that's what.
So on average, we're looking at 15 to 20 vehicles going up West Street.
Probably a little bit less in the middle of the month because the inspection goes down. The oil change is pretty much steady.
Sure.
Yeah, and it could go up a little bit before the end of the month, so.
Thank you.
So I have a quick, so the plans that I have, there's drawings of two different buildings. So the front elevation, I'm looking at A2.0. It matches up to the plan of land, where it has the waiting area on the front and the two bays to the left.
Yes.
Then A.1 has a waiting room in the middle, but another bay to the right. So it's showing so it's showing you actually loop around inside the building.
I believe that.
You can see a door on the right there.
There are different dimensions too, so the site plan, and if I'm reading right, 56 feet, and then the schematic plans show 88 feet, so.
This should be on West Street, right?
This is the exit from the inspection bay onto West Street. This is a rear door. This faces West Street, but that's front. What's this one?
This is towards the station, this, between, so this is the entrance to the inspection bay.
Yeah, I don't think it's two different buildings, Mr. Chairman. If we look at plan designated A 2.0, it shows the front of the building, meaning that portion of it that faces Medford Street. You see the two bays on the left-hand side of the front of the building, and
The waiting area.
the waiting area. That this is not a means of egress or egress. These windows, I imagine, a large window pane area. The depiction above that, which is referred to as side elevation, that is the side that will face
The back of the gas
Highland
station.
Avenue.
Yeah.
Right, and there will be a door, naturally, to access the waiting area, waiting/office area. And the bay, you see, that's the entrance to the inspection bay.
So what is A.1 or A.I, whatever that may be? That's
Oh.
definitely a different building.
Oh,
This,
that's,
forgive me, this was an earlier rendition of
Yes.
a proposed building. It is not the final version. So to the extent that the page designated as A1 was included in the package, you're right, that does not reflect the proposal, and I ask that the board disregard that, and I
Okay.
apologize for the error in submitting that.
that was an earlier building where it doesn't confirm with the number of parking spots. It's a bigger building, so they
Okay.
made it smaller, so it confirms with you.
If I may, just to add one more point to my presentation, Mr. Chairman. The individuals most affected by the variance with respect to rear yard setback, should it be granted, as I mentioned earlier, are the owners of the immediately abutting property, of course, now or formerly Robert and Deborah Skinner. Well, it is now Robert and Deborah Skinner. They continue to own and occupy that property. They are in favor of this proposal, and if the board would note, you see on that rear property line, you see language suggesting proposed 8-foot PVC fence. That was at the request of the Skinners, and Mr. Fayyad is happy to accommodate that request, and should we be permitted to go forward by virtue of allowance of this petition as well as a further planning board petition, we would be consistent in representing that we're putting an 8-foot fence along that rear property line at the request of the immediate abutter and the party most affected by the variance if granted.
Because that was going to be one of my questions. I had noticed that the fence was there and that it shows nowhere else, so that the property, it's in a trust, 108 Highland Avenue, there's no fencing there, and there's no fencing between the gas station and this property. Is that right?
That's correct. The only fencing being proposed is on what's designated as the rear line on that abutting residential property owned by the Skinners. There'll be no fencing on the portion of it that abuts or faces West Street. There'll be no fencing on the portion of it that faces Medford Street. And there will be no fencing separating it from the existing property on Highland Ave. However, there is a grade change. There is to be no access from the Highland Ave property directly to the Medford Street property. If someone were to pull into the Highland Ave gas station seeking an oil change or an inspection, they'd be told, well, we've moved that part of the business over to the building next door. You've got to exit out onto Highland Avenue, take the right onto Medford Street, and then pull into it. But to answer your question, fencing only along one property line, the rear line, and again, at the specific request of the abutters.
One of my concerns is that, you know, it's good to say that we've got 10 cars a day coming in for inspections. And we got, how many was it for oil changes? 5. Major investment. these plans. What's an inspection now, $35?
$35.
I only know that because I had to get one recently. I actually got it on time, first time in my life, I think. But anyway, it was, you know, that's not a lot for this kind of an investment. So we're looking at, I think, you know, hoping to get bigger business.
Basically, you make money from the repair business, which is already existing. This is to more accommodate the customers, having a nice waiting area for the customers. It has a nice waiting area with the TV, more kids friendly, and to move like the walk-ins traffic to that locations and leave the repair in the existing gas stations. So, you know, when you do repair, there's oil, there's grease, there's, like, it's a more messy situation where customers usually, the people waiting at the stations are witnessing everything that's happening. By moving it to the back, they're not seeing the mess that the regular repair, the major repair that.
Yes, okay.
So we're leaving that at the gas station and moving that, the other part of the business to the lot next door, where there's a nice waiting area and seating area, and more in and out, like, basically with the inspection, it's people are creature of habits. I'm sure you know a place, you trust them, you go there. You see a new place, you pass by it like 10 times a day, you mostly don't pass by. It's how it is mostly. So we believe the business that's already existing at the gas station is gonna move next door. And to answer your question, it's probably more beneficial to put like 3 stories and fight for that and fight for 10 condos or 15 condos. But this is what I do now, and I think this is, you know, it's an extension for the business that's already existing there. And I believe it fits the profile of what I'm doing currently.
Yeah.
That's why I'm pursuing it.
Now, my concern is just with the traffic. I mean, if business there gets up more, then, you know, how do you get rid of those, you know, what do you do with those cars? There is no parking anywhere around there except, you know, in the neighborhoods, except those 10 cars, you know, 10 spaces that you've got. Or I should say less than that, because you're counting 4 that are in the building. So, I mean, there's only excess 6, I guess, right? 9.
But to further my client's answer, Member King, appreciating a generic or general desire for maybe a greater use or development of this spot, I'd suggest that this proposed use and this proposed structure, they're going to help to ease conditions in this whole corner of the block, basically. Right now, you've got a very busy, very active gas station, a gas filling station, a mechanic station, an inspection station, oil change, and every other service that can be a full-service automotive repair location on a significantly smaller lot, which a significant portion of it is taken up by the gas pumps, as is true in any station, and you know, a relatively small building to accommodate all those inspections, all that automotive repair, all those oil changes. This will, as I said, ease things. It'll spread out to some extent. The congestion that occurs on this building, you don't see a significant amount of parking on that, but again, that's the area that's probably going to need more parking because of the nature of automotive repair. It often involves bringing cars to the mechanic and leaving them there, and they sit on the lot until they can be repaired, and it's often a first come, first served situation with automotive repair. You know, this makes the entire corner of Highland, Medford, and West less dense, less densely used, less densely populated, less problematic from a traffic and parking perspective. Or I'd make that suggestion to you.
It still bothers me, you know, in the sense of looking at this as an investment that someone would make, that they're thinking that the business is going to stay at a level that it's being presented now. I mean, at that number of inspections a month at $35, at, 5 oil changes at 100 and something, right?
It could increase, but the increase probably we're gonna have an extra bay at the station to do repair, to use it for repair, and that's what will make an extra money. So the third bay at the station is used for oil changes and inspection, and that's gonna be used for repair if that.
But when you sell, and you will at some point, I mean, this is gonna be in the neighborhood for a long time. And,
Sell the location, you mean?
yeah, I mean, once this is an oil change place, whether you have it or somebody else gets it or you sell it, it doesn't increase, and you sell it to somebody else who increases the business. Now we're on a small lot with just barely enough parking, and
Probably.
the neighbors have an issue, and I'm concerned too. I happen to live on a one-way street. West Street is one way at that portion. Do you know how many times I've come out of my driveway and I almost got hit by the car coming the wrong way because they only got this far to go. They only get to the next street. So they go the wrong way up that street. And we're gonna have 2 exits that are very close to where the majority of the car is probably gonna wanna go. Because it's to Medford Street, and it's a main street that they get, in east-west direction. I'm concerned about that, with the location, allowing something like this. I mean, there's a lot of issues with that. I mean, to invest, again, the major thing is investing that much money, and I know you can make it up on your end, probably on your other business end, and it's not an issue for you, but it's an issue for the neighborhood. I'm concerned about that, because the city has given permission, with minimal parking that has come back to kind of bite them before. So that's, all right, anyway, but that's me.
I would respond to that and say that, again, understanding the desire to perhaps see a more intense, more, maximized use, so to speak, of the property, one must always bring before the boards, whether it's the Board of Appeal or the Planning Board, projects that are likely or have received the support of the ward councilor and as many neighbors as we can get on board. And I believe that the board is going to hear from Councilor Condon. He's going to hear from a number of neighbors. Not everyone supports it. We don't suggest that that's the case. But we have solid neighborhood support. We have ward councilor support. Who better to judge whether or not a proposed use is good for the people who live around it than the people who live around it and their ward council, their elected representatives. So we hear what you're saying, but this is what the neighborhood, or much of the neighborhood and the ward council would like to see at this location. They've expressed support in the form of the sheet I hope to be able to submit, and you'll hear in person from a number of them. The board may have already heard. I don't know if any other residents or abutters have communicated with the board electronically or with written email. But that always has to be taken into consideration too. Sure, could we do something more profitable? This board is no stranger to petitioners seeking to maximize the profitability of a particular property, sometimes in egregious contravention of the zoning ordinances. This is not what's happening here. This will help the current owner because it's an affiliated business. This has been shopped around, so to speak, to the neighborhood. They're largely in support of it. The ward council is in support of it. So yes, it may not be the highest and best use of the property in terms of profitability for the current owner, but it's what works for the neighborhood at this point in time, or for a large portion of the neighborhood. And I think that, again, while not a technical statutory criteria, context is very important when any board takes a look at something like this. If the people who have to live with it are okay with it, I don't think the board has to worry about complaints from neighbors at some point in the future. It'll be an established business. And I believe it does, despite the fact that it might not be the most profitable, it does bring real tangible benefits to this very tight and kind of congested corner between Highland, Medford, and West. This is just going to lower the intensity level and spread it out over the two parcels comprising the end of that block, as opposed to it all being jammed up on one. And what's there currently now, which is a ugly burned-out building that's almost 10,000 square feet, and is, admittedly and frankly an eyesore, and something that the entire neighborhood would very much like to see go. I certainly can make that representation. Whether someone supports this particular project or not, nobody wants that building down there anymore, and that extends beyond just the residents, but the city, the building department. They want to see something done.
I'm also curious what the public thinks about the curb cuts. It seems to be a lot for someone walking on the sidewalk to have 3 one-way curb cuts, so I'm interested to hear from the neighbors to see what they think.
I have one question before that. So right now, with your existing service station, do you ever have too many cars? Is there any overflow parking where people are having to park on the street?
Currently,
Yeah.
I don't want to open any kind of worms.
So I'm on Google Street View right now, and I'm noticing in front of the liquor store right now, there's still 15-minute parking. But on West Street, there's no restrictions. So if your parking lot's full and there's cars in line, people drop by, they're gonna be parking them on West Street?
Are you asking about potential service repair shop
Yeah.
customers as opposed?
And I know that's not why we're here, but I'm just in the...
It's certainly possible,
Spirit
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman. And could it be happening now? Yes, probably is happening now. But again, I think it dovetails with my argument to the board that this will help to reduce intensity. So is it possible that people who may be dropping off a car or waiting for something might shoot in here? Sure. But that would be a good thing if they did that. They'd be off West Street if that's where they were going. And like I said, bringing the intensity level of the whole end of the block down a few notches as a result of this.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
What would be the hours of operation for the oil change?
8 to 5.
8 to 5?
8 to 5.
Are those contemporaneous or consistent with the?
Yes.
All right, so both businesses would be
The same.
Operating in the same time of day, 8 to 5.
Monday through Friday, no weekends?
Saturday, 8 to 2.
8 to 2. No other questions? So, right now we'll hear from those in favor of the project.
Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, may I submit that sheet?
Yes.
And does the board require the tear sheets, or do you procure them on your own? I mean, have them either way, but.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The tear sheets for the legal publication.
Yeah, we can take it. I just ask that anybody who walks up to speak in favor or not in favor, there should be a sign-in sheet at the podium. Right?
There is.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Bob Skinner. I live next door to this. I'm in favor, but I have a little reluctancy, but not a lot. I haven't seen this for 2 years. So one of my questions is, if I'm hearing it right, they want to take,
Can you, can you just maybe move the microphone up? Just so, if the
that
microphone doesn't hear you, the TV doesn't hear you. You're on TV, I don't know if you
is that better? Or is that better?
That's better, yeah, I can hear you better.
My understanding is they want to move the building back 5 feet.
So as it sits right now, the building would be 6 feet off your property line.
The building is 6 feet off my property line. I measured it yesterday. Between my fence and the deepest part of that building is 34 inches.
So they'd be removing the existing building and building a new one.
Okay.
They're demolishing it.
Yeah, that building that's there will be ripped down.
All right. So they're not coming into my property.
They're gonna actually, so right now you measured 43 inches.
34.
The 34, the new building will be 6 feet off the line according to the plan.
Off of mine?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it'll be 6 feet further away, or,
Okay.
And
or actually 3 feet further away.
and we just had questions. I don't know if it's a meeting for this or not. But like, he obviously said he was going to change the fence because he wanted to put up a chain link. And I said in passing, a fiberglass would be nice. He said, okay. So just so it graduates down, because backing out of the driveway, we wouldn't be able to see anybody. Because that's going to be our inspection bay, or his inspection bay.
But remember, we'll still have 3 feet, or 6 feet, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
And also the tree stumps and stuff, you're all doing all that.
Yeah,
Right.
there's tree stumps that are in between
Like
that
these giant sumac trees.
Oh, yeah.
that have like created sinkholes in our yard,
They
bumps.
ruined our yard.
Like
totally.
totally.
Okay.
So,
My backyard is like a beach. The waves from the trees are so bad. And, you know, it's something
So what was proposed was an
That's something
8-foot,
I gotta fix.
8-foot PVC fence.
right,
And what you're
8-foot.
asking for, is it for it to go,
As it graduates down.
to go down to maybe 4 feet?
Maybe 4
So you
feet.
can see backing out of your driveway.
Yeah, because if he comes 8 feet out to the sidewalk, we'd never be able to see anybody.
He's about 15 feet off of the sidewalk,
okay.
or 15 feet from the curb.
I don't think you can have an 8-foot fence up to the sidewalk.
I'm sorry.
I think it would have to graduate down. Do you want to clarify?
I would presume that that would
Yeah.
be the case.
No,
but
it can be
just
8 foot
wanna
up to the
verify
sidewalk.
that that's,
I'm sorry?
I would also like to,
Nelson, we want to stand up and,
what about kids walking by?
Now, I'm really gonna confuse you. So any fence above 7 feet or greater actually requires a special permit. So they'd be going for a second entitlement for the fence, at which time you guys could show up and speak to the materials and all that kind of stuff. We currently don't have a rule regarding distance from the property line to the height of the fence. We tried to get one, and the city council didn't buy it. It's coming back this fall, so
Is there like a percentage open that they have?
there
No?
isn't, no.
It
which
can
is
be
why
a
we-
fully
which is-
solid 8-foot
Yeah,
fence.
the mayor's been very involved in trying to get that changed.
Yeah.
And like I said, we did put something before the city council that they didn't approve. They did approve something regarding intersection of 2 streets, but not driveways and streets. So the short story is, if this does get approved this evening, before they could get that fence put up, it would have to go to the planning board special permit, at which time they could dictate material, they could dictate distance from the property line, you know, all that could be part of the special permit conditions, so.
For the sake of argument, we said 7 feet like it is. Would it still graduate down?
That would have to be a condition of the special permit,
Okay.
yeah. So, and
I think, Nelson, what he was asking is that they wouldn't need a special permit if they put up a 7-foot fence.
Right.
So what if they decided to
7
put
foot
up
it
a
would.
7?
7 foot or higher, it would.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
all right.
At 7 feet's the line where you
Okay.
have to go special permit. Less than 7 feet, so 6 foot is your typical fence, typical.
Right.
7 feet is where you'd have to to get a special permit.
But if what he's saying is say, he was saying 8 feet, but even at 7 feet, if they could go out to the lot line with that fence without,
Or 6'11", they could go
Whatever.
straight to the
At-
sidewalk
At the moment, they could,
at the
yes,
moment they could.
without any special,
exactly. Right.
For your information.
If they want to go 7 feet or higher, it goes to planning board, and then that could be a condition of the special permit that it tapers down to 4 feet at their driveway.
But they could avoid that, the owners, by just doing a 6'11" fence out to the property.
They could avoid that by going less than 7 feet and having a conversation with him, and he being a good guy and saying, sure, I'll lower the fence at 4 feet for however long you want it lowered.
Okay.
And the building also, just so you know, has been ordered by me to be torn down, so the building's gonna be gone.
Okay,
Yeah.
That makes me very happy.
I bet.
As far as the traffic flow, I mean, we sit out in our front porch all the time. Traffic on Medford Street is outrageous. It's gotten worse over the past 18 years since we've lived there. It's gonna get worse anyway. There are more cars on the road. It's progress.
I don't think it's gonna make that much.
You know, I don't,
His gas station, oil change places there, as far as traffic.
Okay,
It's just as long as we can see getting out of our driveway,
okay.
and I'll work out with Eddie about taking care of our other problems, but.
So overall, you're in favor of the project?
Yeah.
right.
Is what,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
okay, great. Did you sign the sign-in sheet that was right there?
Yes,
Okay,
we did.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just want to represent to the board that while I don't believe that the fence is an issue before the board.
No, it's.
Nevertheless, we want to represent to the board that Mr. Fayad is willing to accommodate the Skinners in any way regarding the boundary fence between their two properties, whether that's a consistent height throughout the length, whether that's shortening the end, whether that's grading it down as you get toward the end. And that goes for the materials, color, whatever the Skinners want on the fence, Mr. Fayad is going to do. And we will make that representation to this board and the building department, and if we have to go in front of the planning board at all, we'd be making the same representation then. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing this petition. Myself, it's been a long time just looking at this building. My wife's family lived directly across the street. And for the last 40 years, I'm very familiar with this particular building. When it was a liquor store and the badge place. But to look at it now, for the last 6, 7 years, I don't know how many times I've had Nelson there and Board of Health, and it's just takes the whole neighborhood down. The project itself, Pat did a good job going in the technical part of it, but for my conversation with the Skinners, yes, they're gonna be 6 feet from your property, but what that does is curtail any kind of activity on the northern side of that building that they'll have to deal with. Right now, cars have pulled in the driveway behind the building. That will no longer occur. So the 6 feet that's gonna be from their property line with that fence curtails any kind of cars coming in there, any kind of activity back there. So it kind of like acts as a buffer for them. I can only tell you that this is a complete disaster, and it's been 6 years for me trying to work with the neighbors and try to come up with a consensus. The people that it really affects is the Skinners, because they have to deal with it every day. And the people across the street on Medford Street, 384 Medford Street, 388 Medford Street, Wellington Street, 1 Wellington, 4 Wellington, and then you have the house on the corner of Wellington. They're looking at this property every single day. So that's the big win for the neighborhood. To get this building down, we've been trying for years, and this, I feel, okay, it is a nightmare going into Eddie's gas station. That's why I don't go in there. I go in there for gas once in a while, but it's gonna move a lot of that congestion over to the oil change and the inspection side of the business. Because right now, it's very difficult to get in there to get any work done. So I think it's really gonna ease his gas station, the congestion of his gas station. And a lot of those cars are just gonna go, and I like the entrance on Medford Street, move in, get your car done, move out. And I can assure you, there'll be signs right in front of each curb cut there that say, right turn only, with big one-way signs there. So, you know, to me, it's a win for the neighborhood. I'm sure people could come up with something different, but it's still not gonna ease the congestion of the gas station that right now exists. This will. So, that's from my perspective as a ward councilor. Just getting this building down, because I know there's rodents that can get in there all over the place in that building. It's really, it's been too long, you know, for that to sit in the neighborhood. It's an improvement, this business going in there. It looks like, almost like a house, and it's a quarter of the size. I mean, it's 24,000 square feet versus a building that's almost 9,000. So it's 1/4 of the size of the existing building, which goes from sidewalk to sidewalk. And that's not a good thing. Talk about, you know, I don't know how they ever built the building the way they did, but, so, I mean, I'll answer any questions you want. Most of the people that I talk to want that building down, and I think it's gonna be an improvement, I really do, you know, so I'll answer any questions you have. If you have any for me, good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Counselor.
Before you go, because I always ask.
Oh, you
questions.
always.
What can I say? I understand what, you know, what you're saying, and I'm, you know, when I'm listening to this, what I get is tearing the building down would be a great improvement. And I believe that. I mean, I go by there all the time too. And my office isn't that far away, and it's, you know, but I know this is what we have in hand now in one sense. You know, it's a project that is, you know, available. I'm just wondering if it's actually that good a fit forward just there. You feel it is?
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all right. You feel it's a good fit. I mean, I know that the goal is to get the building down. It sounds like he's working on that now, but whether this goes through or not. But I mean, this is, you think, an optimal use of that, or is there something?
I think it's a great fit because it solves two problems for us as a neighborhood. It solves the problem of the gas station, the congestion that's in that gas station. As he told you, he does 300 inspections over the course of a month. 300 inspections, you break it down by the day, you're looking at 10 to 15 inspections each day that he'll no longer have. And it is very difficult to go into the station, get gas, and sometimes, you know, it's difficult getting out onto Medford Street. But I think you relieve the congestion of the gas station, and I don't think it'll be overbearing. There's enough parking, which I'm very happy about, to put cars in there. And if you think about it, if it's 10 to 15 inspections a day, there's room for cars to be put in that side of the building. It gets them off the street. I'm sure Eddie has to park cars right now on Highland Ave every once in a while when it gets overly congested. But, no comment. But it's up to me to make sure that there isn't too much of an overflow of cars onto West Street. We certainly don't want to see that.
My concern is that's a marginal number that we're getting.
Yeah.
And that if we ended up with, 20 a day instead of the 10 a day, and if we, down the road, I mean, is that gonna, now we've got another problem for the neighborhood?
I don't see it happening. I think that the big benefit is the congestion being relieved on the corner in that gas station. And I think with those 12, I think there's 12 parking spaces, 12 parking, 10 parking spaces.
Well,
I
9.
mean, There's five spaces in the lot.
Going up the side.
Oh, okay. They were easier to see in the other plan, but then I use it now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
I count 10 plus
10, yeah,
inside
okay.
is 4.
so if there's 10 spaces, if I'm taking my car in there for an inspection, I'm gonna drive it right into the bay and, I'm never gonna see West Street except to leave. So I really think this kind of business, they'll be able to handle it without a major impact.
Any other questions for Councilor Condon? All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is William Satimio. I own the property at 4 Wellington Street, which is directly 75 feet from the front door of this building that we're discussing this evening. My brother Dominic owns the property at 1 Wellington Street. We've lived on this street for, this year will be 50 years. I've been on this street since I was 15 years old. It's a great neighborhood. I also here represent Maria Santos, who lives directly across the street from the property, who lives at 388 Medford Street in Malden, and who speaks not too good English. She's Portuguese, and asked me to convey her support for this project. I'm in support of this project. There's more animals and stuff in this building. Eddie's been a great neighbor, and he's assisted a lot of people in the neighborhood. And I love the design of the place. And I think for the square footage that's there, I mean, again, like the Skinners stated, we're not going to be able to do anything. We're taking traffic lanes away and making one-lane streets in the city of Malden. I think traffic's always going to be an issue, all right? But if we could cut down on that intersection, we got the Salem 5 on one side, the gas station on the other side, Bond Realty across the street. If we can get those curb cutbacks, we can relieve some of the stress, okay, from that intersection. Which, by the way, my mother was run down crossing Medford Street some years back. Again, like I said, we support those projects. I've been working, going door to door to the neighborhood since last April. I think it's a worthwhile project, and there's probably, I don't know, I just think it's a good fit. To come out your front door every day to see these prison walls, because that's exactly what it looks like since they blocked up all the windows. Years ago when we were growing up, it was the old Fagioni's Market. It was a wonderful store where everybody walked in those days. Well, that doesn't happen today, all right? So Ed's problem here at the gas station is he does a lot of repair work, but you can't get in and out because of the gas part of the business. So by taking the inspection station and moving it to the new location, now the flow will be much easier on that intersection. So I just want to give my support for this project, and I think I believe for myself and for the neighborhood, it's a good fit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Mike Parent, I'm at 248 West Street. So I've been there for 5 years-ish. And that building's been an issue since I moved in. There's been problems with rodents, raccoons, haven't been able to grow tomatoes in the backyard for the past 2 years because they eat them all. So I'm in support of the project. I think it's a good plan. Use of the space and complements the existing business that's there. I'm not worried about the additional traffic, you know, whether it's 10 or 20 cars a day, I don't think that makes a big difference for what the current traffic is on West Street.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Would anybody like to speak in opposition? Come on up. I just ask that you sign the form that's sitting there.
Hi, thank you for listening to us. My name is Susan Catricala. I live at 80 Oakland Street in Malden. I'm on the corner of Oakland and West Street. These are my cousins, they're sisters. Paula lives, this is Paula, 240 West Street.
And I'm the owner of 240 West Street also.
And this is Paula Angela McKay. The house, the two-family house, which is next door to me on West Street. My mother lives on the first floor, and Paula lives up on the second floor with her parents. That property abuts the Skinner's house. So we've been there for 4 generations. Our family has.
67, 70 years.
Yeah, almost 70 years.
My father's 96 years old, and he's still there.
So
Trying to back out of his
we are experts at seeing what the changes are happening in Malden. Because our house is across from the park, like to Bob and Debbie, we're out on our porch all the time. So we're able to observe a lot of what's going on. And I'd first of all like to say that the owner of the gas station is a well-known businessman. I do find it hard to believe that he's going to invest this kind of money in something that's not going to increase his cash flow. Second of all, the traffic on that street is horrendous. Debbie Skinner said so, it is. But on certain times of day, if you're looking on Medford Street, the traffic is all the way up to Quincy Street. So what people do is they drive down, when the light's red, down the street, and they all turn onto West Street to avoid going to the light and going up Highland Avenue. So and onto Malden Street. So they all use that to avoid using Highland Ave. So we already have a huge traffic problem. We feel that there's a safety issue because we've also noticed there's a lot of more young families moving into the neighborhood, so we have a ton of foot traffic. So there's people walking all the time down, and there's a bus stop on the corner of Oakland and Highland and on the corner of Medford and Highland. So you've got all these people either walking to the bus stops. I'm concerned about where are they gonna go? You're gonna be walking, I'm gonna give you a view of the neighborhood. I'm on Oakland. You walk down Oakland Street to the corner.
I'm actually looking at an aerial photo right now, so
Okay,
I'm following
so
along.
walk with me. Corner of Oakland and Highland, there's a convenience store there. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm questioning enforcement. There's no parking on the even side. There's cars there on the sidewalk all day long, so people avoid walking on the sidewalk on the even side. So now you go around to Highland Ave, you can't use, it's treacherous walking past the gas station because cars exit onto Highland and onto Medford Street. Now you're gonna have bays driving cars into a building, and then you turn onto West Street, and you have cars exiting onto West.
It can be two at a time.
Yeah, and our house is the second or third house in, so that means that all these cars are gonna be driving down West Street, exiting the building, avoiding the traffic on Medford Street. There's a pollution issue because all the exhaust is gonna be exited out of the top of the building. What kind of warning signs are they gonna have for people coming around the corner as they're walking down West Street when cars are exiting out of the building? And the overflow from his business does park on West Street. So anybody who's using the gas station, if they can't leave their car there, they put them on West Street. So we have a huge issue with that.
The emergency vehicles will never be able to get through. There's a lot of elderly also living in the two-family houses going down to West Street, all the way down to Malden, all the way down to West Street, actually. So if we need an emergency vehicle for an elderly or even anyone, kid, anyone being sick, they're not gonna be able to get down.
We have petitions, 2 pages of petitions, of names on this petition. A lot of the people on this list had originally signed the petition that went around the first time, but they were not made aware of some of the factors as far as where the traffic would exit. And as soon as they knew it was gonna exit onto West Street and increase the already horrific traffic that we have, they signed the petition against it. And there's no stop sign on the corner of Oakland and West Street, or Oakland and West. So when they turn onto the street, it's like a dragway, them going up the street. I don't know how there hasn't been a bad accident there yet.
And this isn't to say anything against the Skinners, because they've been very good neighbors to everyone, but they only live there half the year. They live the other half in New Hampshire. And we're there all the time. We have been for the last 67 for me.
We're concerned about the noise. When the bays are open, there's gonna be,
You're gonna be hearing zzzz.
all of the, the work that goes on in a gas station. I mean, I don't know if you've ever walked around that block or walked by that gas station. You cannot walk on the sidewalk there. Most people avoid walking around that block because you can't enter or exit. And I just don't understand how it's gonna ease it and say, okay, it's gonna go from here to here. Nobody's gonna put that kind of a business there unless they're trying to increase the number of cars coming in, increase the number of people that are going to their business.
Highland Ave is neighborhood business, but I don't believe West Street is. Is it? Since when?
That parcel is highway business.
What was that?
That parcel is highway business,
Oh,
and
it is
it's,
because the Fajonis used to be there?
yeah.
Okay. And nothing against Billy either, but I don't think he'd be.
So I just
in favor.
wanna, not to interrupt, but, so the variance that we're looking at right here has to do with lot size and setbacks.
Okay, and what about the neighbors and the fumes and the pollution and everything else and the traffic?
So in other words, are you telling me this is already approved to go through?
No, but what we're here to grant is whether or not to allow a variance for a setback.
So if you grant the variance,
But we have to make a decision somewhat based on the effect it's going to have to the city, to the zoning, the
Right.
intent of zoning. Why does Malden say they're not supposed to have this type of building on that size lot and that close to someone's side yard? So it means
right,
those things come into play.
We're
Yeah.
all in favor of getting rid of that
All of
building.
those-
It is an eyesore.
Yeah.
we
No
want
one
it
wants
gone. We
And-
want it
and
gone.
we'd be happy if someone came up with a better idea that isn't gonna cause so much traffic.
But if you're on Wellington, you're not gonna be impacted by the traffic. We will. So we're the 3 houses on the one-way end of West Street. And all of the people that signed this are all people on West Street, who once they were made aware of where the traffic was gonna be routed, immediately signed it.
Can we have that? If you want to enter that
You want it?
into record, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I have one question. Would your opinion change if they didn't have any of the traffic exiting on your street?
Would it change? What do you mean? This,
Yeah, we're not here to talk about the use. We really can't weigh in on the use
No,
of the
no, I
project.
understand
But if your opinion would change, it'd be interesting to hear whether they change their curb cuts and their traffic patterns, if you'd be more in favor.
no, because there's other reasons why. Number one, where there's going to be cars pulling in off of Medford Street. People cross over there to use the bank. There's a lot of people who walk from the bus stop down Medford Street to get home. So they have to walk past those bays. Isn't that a safety issue?
If there's someone that wanted to put some other use, they would have curb cuts and have traffic. So I guess my question is more geared towards if any business is going to put parking on there, which would be any business, no
Right,
matter what.
but it's
it
just,
is.
it's not, if there was a housing there, it would be a certain number of people, but you can't predict how many cars are going to be going in because the objective is to increase your business, hence increase the number of cars.
Right. My question is only about the curb cuts and where they are and what streets they exit onto. So your opinion doesn't change if they change their curb cuts?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Paul, do you have anything you want to?
Was there anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Did anybody else want to speak in opposition of this project?
I have a question
Okay,
for our building commissioner.
he's here.
If, I think one of the big things that I'm hearing, I mean, from almost everybody either in favor or against, is that they don't like that building. And they want it torn down. You say you've ordered that, where are we with that? I mean, because I was, while everybody was talking, and I was looking at the plans, I mean, there's things like, there's a utility pole in the middle of their exit.
Yeah.
Which has to be moved. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the electric company and how they handle moving telephone poles or replacing them too. I know the city's had issues with them leaving up 2 poles.
Yeah, so I can't speak.
Where are you with the demolition pole?
Sure, I can cover the building. The utility
That's
pole is
all-
a different
that's all-
animal.
Yeah, no, I don't care, but I
The
just.
National Grid doesn't care what I say either.
That's right.
So, as part of a citywide initiative that the mayor found funding for, as a result of something that happened over on, at the Mount Vernon building, we had a collapse of a parapet a couple of years back now, I guess. I did an evaluation of buildings across the city. Nate was, pivotal in helping me identify buildings of similar construction and vintage and so forth and so on. So anyways, to make this a short story, this was one of the buildings that got evaluated through that program by a third-party engineering firm, and their evaluation of that building was that it needed to come down. So it was one of many buildings that we evaluated, it wasn't the only one, and it was one of 2 that I have ordered to be torn down. So that has no bearing on this petition, whether you guys grant a variance or not, it doesn't matter, the building's still gonna come down. The difference will be, is it gonna be an empty lot, or is it gonna be, what they're proposing here tonight? So that's really all I can tell you about the building, is it's not going to be there. It's gonna be an empty lot or a oil change place. Or something different.
Or something
Or
else.
something
It
different, yeah,
becomes
right.
an empty lot.
Yep.
It opens up all time. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a quick question too. Is this, not for you necessarily, Nelson, but I've seen in a few different spots that it's going to be a Jiffy Lube. Is that true? They're just using that as a generalization.
Nasty rumor, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
This is not going to be a franchised operation akin to a Jiffy Lube or any other commercial oil change business. This is going to be, I don't know what it's going to be called, but it's going to be Mr.
An
Fayyad's
extension of the
business.
existing business
Essentially,
next door.
yes, an
Okay.
extension of his existing.
Again,
business.
doesn't have anything to do with the variance, I've just have heard that a few times and wanted to clarify.
No, Jiffy Lube, he's not a Jiffy Lube franchisee or any other franchisee.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say one more thing? It's not gonna be a Jiffy Lube per se because the name is not Jiffy Lube, but it's gonna be, that's what it's gonna be, like a Jiffy. In and out, same type of business.
Right, so I had seen Jiffy Lube written on your papers here, and I had actually heard Jiffy Lube from a few different people, so I just wanted to clarify that it's, what's that? Oh, I just wanted to clarify that. Not that it would make a difference, it would still need a setback variance. Any other, so we're gonna close the public portion of the hearing right now. Does anybody have anything, any comments or questions or anything they want to discuss?
You know, again, my issue, my primary thing is that, you know, looking at it from a business standpoint, and with, you know, maybe relieving him of some of the overflow from his type of business by separating things out, you know, it may be a benefit to him, and maybe he's not looking to, which, I mean, I find it hard to believe that this is gonna be, you know, with the amount of money that you put into a place, it's gonna have, you know, oil, cars leaking fluids, gas. I mean, there's a lot that goes into building one of these places. I mean, they're not inexpensive, and for the kind of return you're gonna get for 30 inspections, you know, at a time here we're looking at, and for the number of oil changes we're told, I don't think it's gonna happen that way. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Maybe he's gonna sell more gas.
Well,
It's
also,
not there.
and
There's not gonna be no access. Once they get there, they can't get to his gas station.
again, it's not really
Yeah,
why we're here either.
Yeah.
No.
But I think that inspection business is gonna be feeding his auto repair business. People get inspections and they need things done.
They
Sends
can't,
them over
they're not
next door.
supposed to do that. That's against state law.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that, but that's not why we're here either.
No, that's not, but it's, I just have, you know, concerns about that, if whether that's a good use for that space. It doesn't fit the property according to the city zoning laws.
But nothing would fit, right?
Well,
No matter what the business, they would still need a variance to use that parcel?
No, not if they changed the size of the building. I mean, you could put something in there. I mean, not that kind of a business necessarily. It's going to be, I hear from the neighborhood, they don't like the building that's there, and it's, oh my God, there's somebody gonna put something there. Well, is this the best use for that? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't fit in.
Well, highway business requires 10,000 square feet and they don't have it.
But it could be a less intense use too. And the city would probably allow something like that if someone did do something residential. So I mean, there are options, and a vacant lot has more options in one sense, and it sounds like that's what's going to happen to that place. It's going to be one, and to kind of grasp at straws because this one's here now. I'm not sure again if it's for the neighborhood, if it's going to be the best option. Just me, one person, sitting here.
Any other questions?
actually have a lot, but I live in that neighborhood, so I don't know if I should say anything.
What's that?
I said I have a few questions, but I don't know if I should say anything because I live in the neighborhood.
Oh, okay, so yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Any questions, Bill? No? Armin? Does anybody want to make a motion?
You don't want me to.
Somebody has to.
I make a motion that the petition be denied.
State the reason.
It doesn't conform to the,
No microphone.
because it doesn't conform to the zoning laws and that it would derogate from the intent of it.
Is there a second? No second.
No second?
No second. Does anybody want to make a different motion?
Yeah, I would imagine somebody who does, if nobody seconded the denial.
I'm hesitant to make a motion to approve it based on some of the neighborhood feedback, but I do think that that's not necessarily relevant for the two variances we're here to approve, so so I'm struggling to make the motion myself.
We're still waiting for a second on Mr. King's motion.
No.
No second.
Nobody
Well,
seconded
if
it.
someone
No,
would second it,
the second would bring it to a vote.
yeah.
Correct. I'll second it to bring it to a vote. True.
All right, a motion by King to deny variance due to it does not conform to the building laws and it would degrade from the neighborhood. We'll take a second by Sullivan. We'll take a call. Sullivan, to deny?
Yes, to deny, yes.
Deny. King,
To deny, yes.
Logan?
I don't deny, so no.
Okay, so you're a no. Okay, perfect. Kramer?
No.
No. Go to variance.
No.
No. Okay, so,
3-2.
there you go. They need a count of 4. So it gets, it doesn't, petition doesn't pass.
Doesn't pass. So we have a 3-2 vote, which doesn't pass.
On the vote to deny, Mr. Chairman, or is there a better vote on a motion to approve or even?
2 are voting to deny, 3 are voting to not deny.
There was no motion to approve.
All right.
Right.
I already remember Bill say that, but perhaps I misheard.
She was contemplating.
I'm sorry?
She was contemplating whether to do it.
So what happens when there's not a denial, but not an affirmative approval either?
Someone could possibly make a motion to withdraw without prejudice, or no, maybe not. No?
Well, we could allow it.
you wanted to, but, it does not pass. It needs a vote of 4 to pass, to grant the variance.
Could you table for further consideration?
We'll make another motion, someone can make another
Yeah,
motion.
does anybody, can we do that?
There can be another motion to approve it, and then if two people vote not to approve it.
It'd be the same vote,
Yeah.
so it just doesn't,
So you can make a different motion.
Right.
This doesn't pass.
Well, I'm not sure how that, I've never been in this situation. So I'm not sure where that, I just know it doesn't pass.
So it's not granted.
So it's not granted.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
This just happened about others where you can get a, open and do it, and it doesn't pass. It can't, it
Can't pass,
can't.
yeah.
He didn't ask to make a motion to to withdraw either.
Right,
He could have asked if we would have considered that, but he did not.
right. Okay, so, that's the end of this with, meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second? We got a second, okay? Sullivan?
Yes. What happens if we get a 3-2?
King?
Yes.
Silgan?
Yes.
Thank you. Kramer?
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
2. I know. What about
It was.
at 9:03 PM.